In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the camera crane tool. We can use the camera crane to create nice kind of curved movements for our camera without having to animate the camera specifically. So it gives us a really nice kind of curved movement, or a 360-degree movement, or a kind of pitch up and down. In classes here, if we just search for crane, you'll see the camera rig crane. If we just drag that in. Now, because we've set up our scene, so 0 is the center of this observatory thing here, we can just click our little button here to move that back to world 0. So if we just move that up, let's hit that there. So we are going to move this up anyway though, because we want the camera on there like that. So we can see with our crane, if we rotate the pitch, the camera will tilt up and down. And if we increase the yaw, that will rotate the camera around the center of the crane. So I'll leave both of those on 0 at the moment. And we can also change the length of the crane here. All of these elements are animatable in Sequencer, so really easy to control and animate. So the next thing we need to do is come into our sequencer. If you haven't already got a sequencer, just right click, animation, level sequence. We've already got one in place here though, because we have some other kind of animation on the scene. And then in your sequencer tab, what we want to do is add a new camera into this. So we just hit this button and it will create a cut and a camera actor here. Now what we want to do is link the camera to the crane itself. Now you can do this within here, so we can just drag that onto there. But the problem with that is, I'll just show you, if we do File, Save, or it will lose the connection there, which obviously isn't what we want, because every time we save we don't want to have to reattach it. So a much better way to do that is to link it in Sequencer instead. So what we'll do first is we'll add our crane into here. So now we can animate the crane. And then on our Cine Camera Actor, we'll right click and so we'll go to the Track Plus button here. We'll go to Attach and we'll pick our crane. So now you can see that's linked, and if I do File, Save All, you can see that that no longer loses the connection. So it's obviously much better to do it this way. The other thing we'll want to do is go to our Attach track here and just make sure that we drag that so it covers the duration of our animation. So between the green and the red bars, like so. Right, so with our camera attached, what we want to do is select the camera here and just kind of reset the coordinates and so on. So now we can see that that is linked to the camera. The camera's orientation and position have been reset, so it's on the end of the crane here. And now if we rotate that, you'll see that this goes round. If I just click on the camera in our sequencer, that will lock this view to that. And obviously at the moment it's going to look a bit silly because the camera isn't in the right position and we haven't set any settings, but you can see the camera rotates with it. Okay, so at the moment the camera, what we can do as well on the camera is select it, and obviously you can change your rotation in here if you want. Depends exactly what it is you want to look at and so on. And I'm also going to just change our lens to an 18mm lens. Let's make sure that's changed there too. And now when we rotate that camera, when we rotate the crane, we'll change the arm length as well a little bit. You'll see it flows around it like that. And obviously the camera's orientation isn't changing at all. So what we want to do next is just track this kind of telescope thingy that we want the camera to focus on. So as it rotates around this, it's going to constantly look at the center of this object. So with the camera selected, if we just go to Actor to Track, we know it's a telescope, so we'll just click that and we'll make sure we enable Look At tracking. And now with our crane selected, if we change this, I think we actually have to animate it and play it in the viewport before that'll work correctly. So let's do that phase first. So just to show you what I'm talking about, if I have the crane selected and I change the yaw here and just slide it up and down, you'll notice how the camera doesn't look like it's changing, but when I stop rotating, the camera clicks back into place. So yeah, so basically when you're rotating this using this control, the camera isn't actually updating, so it is actually locked onto this target. So let's animate that crane rotating round so we can see this working properly. So if we select camera rig crane, we go to track, and what we want to do is just take in the yaw, and now we can see we have that as an animatable attribute. So we'll go to frame 0 here. Yep. And then we'll just set that to 0, and we'll just add a keyframe. And then we'll go on to our last frame here. Bear in mind, you can use these keys here, by the way. To end will take you to there, and that will take you back to there. And then we'll put this on, I think it works in degrees. So we can see now that that's rotating around our object. Now obviously the orientation isn't great, so, whoops. The orientation isn't great at the moment. So what we want to do is actually tweak the position of our camera. I'm just going to make the arm a little bit longer. I'm going to select the camera, and I'm going to sorry about this, right, go to look at tracking settings here, and we want to use our relative offset. We'll just try typing 50 into there, 100, say 150, and we'll just get that relative, you know, so it's just about right. And I'm going to bring the middle of our lens down even more. And now we can see we rotate around that object. Obviously it's not the kind of camera shot we'd actually want for this, but I'm just, at least it shows you that you can use that crane to create those kind of movements. So yeah, you can also obviously animate the other aspects of this. So if we hit track, we can also add in the crane pitch. Maybe we'll take this keyframe out. We'll put that on to say 90. So it's just rotating around that bit there. And then we'll use this button to go back to 0. I guess we can leave that on 0 for now. Click on that keyframe to get it to there, and we'll just try changing this pitch up and down a little bit. And then if we can also add in the crane arm length, so again use that button to go to frame 0, put the keyframe there, we'll add another keyframe here, and we'll just expand that out a little bit. Okay, I haven't quite done the pitch right here, so we'll make sure we're on frame 0, put that to 0, add a key. I obviously hit key to add on the wrong thing. By the way, you can also just hit enter to add a key, which is obviously far better in that case because I didn't do that bit right at all. Okay, so that's all 3 of those elements animated. If we just hit play, you can see, yeah, it's not the ideal camera shot we really want, but you can see that you can basically control all of those things and achieve really nice kind of smooth curving motion. Now the last one we could potentially do is just select all these keys and have a mess around with our curve editor. So you can see at the moment our curve editor is going from slow to fast and then back to slow again. So depending on what you want, you might want to select all these and just change the style here. So this will just be linear, so it'll just move in one motion. So you can see it's just a constant speed from A to B. Obviously we could also change this to here. Select this one, change it to flat, and these ones change to flat. So that's going to go from slow to a constant speed. So again, back to there, and hit play. So we start off slow to a constant speed like that. Okay, so that's using the crane. UE4. The next thing we look at is using the rig.